Brooklyn Independent Television.
Coming up on Brooklyn Review.
If you always wanted to ride a bike to get around in the city, but don't own one of your own, don't worry. This summer, you'll get your chance. I'm Melissa Rose Cooper in Park Slope, and coming up, I'll tell you how.
Honoring Black veterans.
And I'm Fred Brown here in Park Slope at PS 124, which was voted as one of the big winners in Brooklyn's participatory budgeting contest.
We'll have these stories and more next. Welcome to Brooklyn Review. I'm Brian Vines. It's one of the biggest threats to public safety in the city, claiming the lives of seniors and children at an alarming rate. It's not drugs or illegal guns, and there's no stopping and frisking that's going to end this epidemic. If you walk or ride in the streets of New York, you may be taking your life in your own hands.
Every bike rider in New York City has a story. A tight squeeze, a near miss, and if they're lucky enough to tell it, a story about the time they walked away from a crash.
So, celebrating my mom's birthday, I went out to visit her. I live downtown Brooklyn right now, grew up in Howard Beach, Queens, kind of a straight line east. After dinner, rode my bike straight home, going through East New York at the intersection of Montauk and Sutter. The car made a left-hand turn without noticing me in the least, and I went flying. I remember seeing every lamppost at that intersection, all four, and I guess I did a full 360 spin and landed on the ground, and immediately adrenaline's rushing and kind of have no idea what's going on, but I stood up, immediately sprung up, still felt the weight of the kryptonite bicycle lock around my waist, and stood up and then looked down the corner and saw a car with its brake lights on, had just stopped over there, and that was the guy who hit me. Tried catching my breath, screamed, wait. I saw a couple of people around that I assume had seen the accident, and I fell right back down. All the trauma had been just dropped like a sack of potatoes. I could still see the wheels, the back wheels, literally burn rubber and smoke come out as it just fled. I broke 3 ribs, which is painful, and either the car windshield or one of the broken ribs itself lacerated my spleen.
As bad as his hit and run was, Paco was actually one of the lucky ones. According to the city's numbers, there were 237 traffic fatalities across the 5 boroughs in 2011. 21 of those deaths were a result of clashes between bicycles and motor vehicles. In Williamsburg, 30-year-old Matthew Lefebvre was hit and killed by a flatbed truck at the intersection of Morgan Avenue and Meserole Street before his body was dragged 40 feet and his bike another 130. The driver who hit Matthew did not receive one of the 84 careless driving citations issued by the NYPD last year. The driver who hit Paco was never even pursued.
The victim, they want to know that there's going to be repercussions for that driver, but fortunately in New York, if you want to kill someone, use a car and you'll get away with it.
In hit and runs where the victim survives, the decision to investigate comes down to the line between recklessness and criminal negligence.
I mean, the word accident is wrong. It's not an accident. An accident is if your brakes fail and you swerve out of control. If you're on your phone or just not looking or not yielding right away, that's not an accident. That's reckless driving.
You have to show that someone was behaving recklessly in order for there to be a consideration of criminal charges. And the main way of showing that someone was behaving recklessly is to demonstrate that they were violating multiple traffic laws at the same time when they hurt the person. Now, if the violation of the traffic laws aren't being investigated, and found and determined. There's no way it can ever get to the point of being classified as a criminal offense.
Steve Vaccaro is an attorney at Rankin and Taylor and was featured in the New York Times for his work focusing on cyclist rights. He also represents Matthew Lefebvre's parents in a lawsuit they filed against the NYPD to release the records of his accident.
If NYPD were to conduct a meaningful investigation in every crash that results in a fatality or serious physical injury, and that's the requirement of the law. The state law, the Vehicle and Traffic Law 603A, says that NYPD has to conduct those investigations. They're not doing it. And they couldn't do it with the staff they have now.
As it is right now, only 18 officers in the entire city of New York are trained to be part of what's called the AIS, or the Accident Investigation Squad. And they're the only ones that are trained to do this type of investigation.
It's simple math. In 2010, 13,892 cyclists and pedestrians were injured by drivers. Divide those incidents by the current number of AIS personnel, and each investigator would be responsible for 731 cases. In March, New York City Council Member Steve Levin introduced a bill that would rewrite that equation.
The Police Patrolman's Guide says that there only needs to be an investigation when a crash produces somebody either dying or somebody likely to die. Well, it turns out, after some research by my staff, that that's actually out of whack with the state law. The state law states that anytime there's serious physical injury, the police department needs to do a full investigation. And so what we're working on right now in terms of legislation is to bring the police department into compliance with state law. It's actually common sense. And one thing we're saying is that every precinct ought to have at least 5 officers trained to do an investigation, and that one be on call at any given time.
So could New York City be making itself vulnerable to lawsuits by not following this state law?
There is some authority to suggest that NYPD has this duty to conduct an investigation, and that the individuals who are the victims in these cases, if they are harmed in a certain way by the lack of investigation, potentially could pursue a claim against NYPD.
More people died in New York City due to vehicular crashes than to handguns. And if you were to say that we were not investigating every major injury that was as a result of a handgun, I think that there would be utter outrage across the city of New York. So why would we be doing it with regard to traffic injuries?
You know, NYPD does a lot of things right, but they are missing the mark entirely on street justice. Cars aren't bad, driving isn't bad, it's reckless riding is bad, and the lack of consequences for it is terrible.
Would you rather avoid crowded subways and buses this summer and get a bit more exercise? Well, you may be in luck, as the city plans to kick off a new bike share program where people can rent a bike to get around town. Melissa Rose Cooper has more.
Brooklynites who don't want to walk, drive, or pay costly fares taking public transportation will soon have an affordable way to get around the city.
Bike share in New York City is going to be a whole new transit choice for New Yorkers.
The Department of Transportation will debut the first phase of its bike sharing program in July. Sponsored by Citigroup, the program will roll out 600 biking stations by 2013.
It's going to expand our ability to get around and make it easier. It's low cost, and suddenly your neighborhood's going to have a new transportation choice.
People we spoke to are excited.
I think it's a great program. I think anything that gets more people on bikes is great.
Similar bike share programs have already been implemented all over the world in cities like Boston, Chicago, Toronto, and London.
All over the world where bike share programs have already been running, we've seen that bike share users are in fewer crashes than regular bike riders, so I think there's going to be a lot more safety actually.
Cyclists in the area say it's about time New York has one of its own.
I got the chance to try it out when I was recently in Madison, Wisconsin for work. It's been very, very successful there. It's made it a much more bike-friendly city, so I'm hoping it does the same for us.
Anyone who wants to take advantage of the bike share program can opt for a $95 annual membership that will allow you to ride up to 45 minutes. If more time is needed, there's an extra charge. Daily and weekly memberships will also be available.
It's a great program. I ride my bike for exercise and just to ride, you know.
Even local businesses are meeting the demands of its two-wheel customers. Gorilla Coffee in Park Slope built this mini bike parking lot in front of its shop.
I hope it decreases car traffic. I hope that there's people that maybe would drive to get on the train, might just ride their bike to get on the train or cut the car step or the bus step out.
But the looming question many drivers have is how will the bike share stations affect them?
Like any program, it's going to take New Yorkers trying it and using it to get it right. I think we need to sort of rethink the way we use our street space. It's public space. And where you used to store one car, bike share is now going to have 12 new parking spots in that one spot. So people are going to be able to come and go in numbers much higher than before.
As the bicycling community continues to grow and more people are choosing to ditch their set of four wheels for two, cyclists hope the bike share program will only help to make New York City a friendlier place for bikes.
Maybe they can look forward to a little bit less traffic if they're lucky. That would be really nice. And maybe get out and try one, see how fun it is to ride a bike to work instead of sitting in traffic.
For Brooklyn Review, I'm Melissa Rose Cooper.
For the past 6 months, Brooklyn residents have been strategizing and voting to get a piece of city funds in a unique process called participatory budgeting. Reporter Fred Brown met up with City Councilmember Brad Lander, who talked about the winning projects.
On this sunny day in Park Slope, City Councilmember Brad Lander is wearing a big smile. That's because now he has $1 million of city budget to spend, thanks to the hands-on approach of residents in his district.
The process was fantastic. Over 2,200 people came out and voted. So you just saw this outpouring on Election Day of people excited about being asked to participate in this very grassroots form of democracy. Normally, elected officials will say, here's what we're going to do with sort of the people's money. This was an opportunity to say, what do people in this community think we should be doing? Where should we be spending the dollars? What are the projects that are needed? So over 6 months, hundreds and hundreds of people came out, gave their ideas, turned those ideas into projects, made sure that they were feasible, figured out how much they would cost, worked with the agencies, worked together in committees to put a ballot together. We got to a ballot of 20 fantastic projects. Over 2,200 people then came out over a few days. We had polling places in different locations around the neighborhood. And people got to vote for the ones that they thought were the most needed in our neighborhood. And the 7 projects that they chose for this $1 million that we have available to spend are all great.
Oh, I'll reverse it backwards. B, I think it's a great thing that the community came together to choose on what they should vote on for the participatory budget. A, I had no idea, and I only live 3 blocks from here. And I don't know why we didn't hear anything. I didn't even know you could go online.
But residents did go online, and they did form committees, which resulted in projects being funded, like at this local public school, which was overwhelmingly voted as the #1 space in need.
So there's a public school down the street where the bathrooms are just gross. You wouldn't want your kids to have to go to school. There's no doors on the stalls. It's the kind of thing, truthfully, that we should just be paying for in the city, but the school's been trying and not been able to get the Department of Education to do it. Now, because the community agrees that's the top priority project, the money's there, it's going to get done.
Now, for some, the idea that a community could be involved in its own citywide budget process was considered revolutionary. But proponents, like Council members Brad Lander and Jamani Williams, saw it differently. They say this was an experiment in inclusive democracy, where constituents actually had their hands in on the process.
It was an extremely inspiring process. I mean, what I saw was People want to participate. They care about their neighborhoods. I think we all know this, but still to see people and how deeply they care about their parks, their subway stations, their schools, their streets, have real concrete ideas for what will make them better, and really are willing and want to come out and get involved. And so hundreds of people came out to give their ideas. Well over 100 people became volunteer budget delegates who came to hours and hours of meetings to figure out how can we make this project work?
I think the idea is great because the community lives here and they know what is needed better than the politicians who don't live in the community, or especially the radius per se. So I think it's a great idea, but again, it should be somewhere where everyone, because I'm very sure if I didn't know, there's plenty of others who didn't know either.
It was really very inspiring, and at a time when confidence and faith in government is low, when people aren't so sure that government is the place we all come together to say, here are the problems that we need to fix, here's what we can do to fix it, let's do it. This was really an example of government at its best.
For Brooklyn Review, you've been around town with Fred Brown.
There's a project in Prospect Park.
Though we celebrate mothers for one day in May, the Brooklyn Young Mothers Collective, a nonprofit organization in downtown Brooklyn, is dedicated to providing teen moms the services and support they need all year round. Reporter Anna Lamont of Salisbury pays a visit to the center.
Meet Octavia Davis, a 17-year-old student at Urban Assembly, and her baby, 5-month-old Tracy Rivas.
Wait. So I got a free pregnancy test because I knew, but I was like, no, I'm not. And when she told me, she was acting all stink because it was really an abortion place. So she was like, you want an abortion or not? And I'm like, what? Okay, bye. So I just walked out.
Octavia is a member of the Brooklyn Young Mothers Collective, an organization dedicated to meeting the needs of young mothers in Brooklyn.
So I just did everything like I wasn't pregnant. So I was kind of in denial still.
Benita Miller is the founder and director of Brooklyn Young Mothers Collective.
Because my parents were teenage parents, I wanted to do something to improve the outcomes of teen parents in Brooklyn. Particularly around education, I wanted to improve the outcomes of teen parents because what I know in my own life shows is that when you help connect young parents to school and vocational opportunities, you help them break the cycle of poverty in their own family.
And what she knows is that almost 75% of youngsters born to a single teen mom will grow up with less of a chance for educational and social opportunities.
And so it was really important to me to start an organization that focused on teaching young people about their rights, but also doing something very, very practical in their lives and giving them the desire to hope and dream for more for them and their children. For us, it wasn't unusual to segregate teen mothers in programs, which didn't allow them free access to schools, in the sense that if you were a teen mother, we thought it was okay that we put you in a program because you were pregnant. And for us, it's like, well, why does she have to leave her school, or why can't she go to the best school possible for her just because she's pregnant or has a baby? So we've been really able to change the discussion around the pregnant and parenting teen in public education spaces. Teen mothers, for them, they represent sex, one. And we're not ashamed that they have sex. So we encourage them to have safe sex. But for them, that's what the stigma is. They have sex, they have babies. And their babies are going to grow up and do this, and that. And we debunk all those myths.
Brooklyn Young Mothers Collective supports each young woman based on her specific needs. They make sure that these young women remain active in educational institutions, increase their knowledge of social issues impacting their lives as young women and their families. There is even a doula. A doula is a non-medical birth support person.
BYMC, this is Yeshi. My name is Yeshi Braddock. I'm the community doula here at BYMC. A doula can be the person that keeps you focused on what you're doing, just like being in your birth experience and not maybe worrying about the doctors in the room or the nurses or your partner or your family.
While a doula offers one form of support, BYMC is able to offer many amenities because of public and private funding.
This was a place I could just talk about my problems, calm down, and relax.
Well, first we have to make them believe that they are not the stigma, and then we deploy them in community life by making sure they go to school, making sure that they're involved in their children's school life.
For Brooklyn Review, I'm Anna Lamontas Salisbury.
Following a string of sexual assaults in South Brooklyn, many residents are apprehensive about traveling late at night, particularly women. Reporter Julia Vassie is with a group of Prospect Park area cyclists who've banded together to provide secure escort services for free. Here's the story of a few local heroes.
Who says that Batman is only fiction? This guy has no wings, but he can fly on his bike faster than cars. He's a bike messenger during the day, but when it gets dark, he puts his yellow t-shirt on and turns into a Brooklyn Bike Patrol agent. And just like the superhero, he rushes to help women when they feel in danger.
It's like a simple route of the Brooklyn Bike Patrol, because you can call us late at night and we'll come out and meet you, you know. So we're like the night riders who just come out and you know, we ride to you and we escort you home.
Following a string of sexual assaults in Brooklyn, a 43-year-old Jay Ruiz started this volunteer organization.
I mean, I saw a video last September of a woman getting attacked. She was screaming to the top of her lungs, she was getting mugged, and no one came to her aid, you know. And I came up with this idea, if a woman had an escort going home from the train station or maybe from a friend's home, you know, how many of these crimes would not happen, you know?
And all it takes for a woman is just a phone call.
Brooklyn Bike Patrol. Hey, how you doing? Prospect? How long do you think? 30 minutes? Don't worry, I'll be there waiting, okay? Hey, how you doing? Thank you for calling us.
This call brought Jay to the Prospect Avenue train station, where he met Anna. She'd worked past midnight and didn't want to risk walking through the dark streets alone. And just as a real hero, Jay never accepts payment or tips, only thank yous and grateful comments on his Facebook page.
At first it was kind of, people wasn't really sure about us. So I did the Facebook page, I went to the 72nd Precinct, I told them who we were. And they've been cooperative, you know. And up to date we have like maybe close to 80 women that have used this.
And for those who haven't heard about Brooklyn Bike Patrol, Jay spreads the word around by giving out flyers.
How you doing, man? Brooklyn Bike Patrol. Hi, man. Can I get a flyer? Ah, here you go. Here, take two. Take one for your friend.
I've lived in this neighborhood for 6 years. Generally I do, but last summer we had that groper attacker person, so then I did not feel very safe at all. I personally haven't had anything happen, but there's been things outside my building and stuff like that, so I would definitely take advantage of that if I knew I was going to be coming home late.
I just read in the news the other day about the Gothamists, yeah. We usually try and stay together, so yeah.
See you later.
Right now, Brooklyn Bike Patrol has over a dozen volunteers, camera-shy heroes who avoid the spotlight. They patrol around 45 subway stops around Brooklyn from 8 p.m. to midnight every night. The cops cannot be everywhere, they say, and that's why Brooklyn Batmen are ready to fly as fast as they can, wherever their help is needed. For Brooklyn Review, this is Julia Vassie.
On Memorial Day, Black veterans for social justice took to the streets of Bed-Stuy for their first parade and the unveiling of a monument to commemorate Brooklyn's armed servicemen and women. And Brooklyn came out strong to show some love and share some memories.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Thank everyone for coming out today to Black Veterans' first annual Memorial Day Parade in Bed-Stuy.
Good morning to everyone, and welcome again to Bedford-Stuyvesant's first Veterans Memorial Day Parade. And truly, this is a a great milestone in the life of BBSJ. This is just, again, the beginning. I think every borough should have a parade. You know, not just to have a parade to be ceremonial, but to have a parade also to let individuals know that veterans are not just veterans on these holidays. They're veterans every day, and their needs have to be met every day, and it brings awareness to the needs. So we thank each and every one of you for walking and with us. We hope that you'll join us at 2 o'clock at 665 Willoughby, where we will unveil this Veterans Monument. We're talking, remembering and honoring those who are serving, those who have served, and those who have lost their life in the service of this country.
This is the #1 soldier. This was the #1 U.S. military soldier. This is the guy we all learn from, both past and present.
Well, we'll keep the rest of that private. But
So without further ado, I would like to introduce, and I'm going to ask all of you to please stand. As I present to you the Grand Marshal, founder and Grand Marshal of the Bedford-Stuyvesant First Memorial Day Parade, Mr. Joe Marshall.
We always said if the United States government had to put out as much money for serving veterans that served in the military that they do to make war, they wouldn't make no war. We're citizens of this country. We're human beings in this country, okay? This country gives money to other countries. They give money to businesses. They give money to everybody they want to give money to. And they will give the money that needs to be given to all the veterans and to our community when we don't take no money.
What we do, that's what we're going to have to study. And it represents, it says, hold it. Thank you. Least we forget.
Well, that's the close of this Brooklyn Review. If you missed anything or you just have to see it again, visit us at our home on the web at brickartsmedia.org. We're also on Facebook, iTunes, YouTube. You can even tweet us. So we'll see you next time. Bye now.
Watch this and other Brooklyn Independent Television episodes online at brickartsmedia.org/BIT.